Welcome back to the Inner Owl Wellness Podcast, where we explore the inner realms within us to create higher dimensions of health and wellness in our lives. And today, my friends, we have a really cool guest, someone who is not only my friend, she's someone who I consider to be like really out there in terms of like spirituality and the things she does. I feel like most people would be really curious to hear what this human has to say and her experiences. Her name is Loni Dayan. She is the founder of Empath Awaken, which was previously a podcast and now is a clothing brand to connect with people who are tapped into synchronicities in a community who sees and experiences synchronicities. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Lonnie. Thanks so much for being on.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and grateful that this is full circle because you were, I think, like the second or third person on my podcast. So it's an honor.
Yeah, yeah. We literally recorded the podcast, that one you're talking about here. If I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but maybe you can go back, whoever's watching it, and see it was this exact setting, which is my house. So yeah, it's special that we're able to do this again on the other side. I
For
wa-
sure.
I want to start off with something that I've actually been really interested in recently, and that's the idea, the experience of synchronicity. And it's so funny because it's so funny that they're happening in my life right now, and they have been happening, and I used to downplay them, and I don't know if that was, like, a conscious thing or an unconscious thing, but as I've, like, spiritually grown and matured and just kind of been more tapped into, like, the story of life, these things keep happening to me, and I'm just I wanna ask you about them, but before I do, I wanna read you a definition of synchronicity, by Carl Jung, who's an Austrian psychologist, from, like, the 1900s. Such an incredible guy, incredible not just psychologist, but, like, philosopher too, and I wanna hear what you think about this definition. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the, definition that Carl Jung has for us is synchronicity means the simultaneous occurrence of a psychic state with one or more external events, which appear as meaningful parallels to the momentary subjective state. How do you feel about that?
uh, I don't know if it's just me right now in this moment, but it feels kind of hard to like grasp all those words and like put them into meaning for me.
Okay. It is a bit wordy, I will say. So wait, how about this? So like how would you define or what is a synchronicity to you?
It's so interesting. There's so many things that come to mind. I feel like it's when we're divinely aligned with love, and we just happen to look at the clock and it's like 11:11. It's synchronistic. It's like we're not doing anything. Like we're not trying to look at the clock at 11:11. We just look at it and it's 11:11. Or we just happen to look over and there's a license plate and it's like 444. It's this it's just like it's natural. It's the natural way of things.
And those two things that are happening, like you seeing 11:11, what does that mean? Like, does that encode some is there some sort of encoded meaning within that? Like, when you're, like, you're chilling and then you see something like, "Oh, wow, it's 11:11." Like, does that have a meaning? And is that meaning different for everyone?
Yeah, so I think it depends where we are in our lives like, and what's going on. And if you look up like any angel number on Google, if you Google any angel number, there's gonna be like 10 different meanings. Like this means this, and this means you're aligned, or this means you're protected. And I think angel number, I know that I'm just talking about numbers right now, but like they're not specific to angels either. So my mom died when I was 12 and she was born on May 27th. And so I started seeing 27 everywhere. And it took me a while to realize that my mom was born on May 27th. And then I started attributing that to my mom trying to communicate with me through the other side. And so now my number is 27. I see it all the time. And I see it so much that it no longer phases me. It's no longer like this, like, oh my God, 27 again. And sometimes it like speeds up. Like when I'm feeling at a higher vibration, I'm able to see like angel number, angel number, angel number. But when I'm like in a lower frequency, which is me like doubting myself, feeling insecure, feeling shameful, or like I should be doing something different, then like I'm not as connected. I'm not seeing the things around me. Did that answer your question?
It does, yeah, and it's really interesting because it really parallels my recent experience with these things. Is that what you said was like when I'm not connected or like when I'm not in tune with my reality, it doesn't happen as often. But when I'm feeling
Mhm.
kind of like this like high frequency, just like almost like contentness, like inner peace, like curiosity, a little bit of mystery too, then things start to happen where, maybe I'll be listening to like a song and the song is going like these cats ain't about that or whatever. And then I'll see like someone's license plate, like cats, at the same moment as the song that I'm listening to in the car is playing that. And that to me is like so mysterious. Like, what in the world is going on? And so yeah, I think like we do have to be connected in order to tap into those. And also I wonder what you think about this. Like to me it's like I can't really force synchronicities to happen. Like it's not something that you like consciously like focus on the clock and then like, you know what I mean? Like there's a sense of like letting go, and once you let go, you're like amongst like the wave of consciousness, and then they start to happen. Is that also your experience?
Absolutely. You can't force. I mean, you can force some things, like you can force yourself to work and you can force yourself to make money and you can force yourself to do certain things in life to get you by. But like with synchronicity, it's all about like tapping into your heart, tapping into your energetic field, clearing your space, and just being free and enjoying life and having fun. I also want to mention like synchronicity isn't limited to numbers. It isn't limited to license plates. Like synchronicity can be like having a conversation with a random person that just like changed the way you think because you've been like pray. Like sometimes I'm like, God, like please help me see this differently. And then I'll get an Uber rider and like we have this amazing conversation and it just changes how I feel about myself and how I feel about the world.
Yeah. So you could almost ask for it, but it's like you can't really ask too much. Like, you can't like request it, and it doesn't always appear in the way that maybe you expect it to appear.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think you can set intention. Like, I don't think there's much value. Like, maybe there could be value in like, hey, like I want to see 11:11 on the clock. Like maybe, but like wouldn't you want to like change your perception of the world? Like change how you see things, change how you feel about your life and it's like I feel like we're kind of pivoting. We're going a little bit deeper into synchronicity and like how it could actually help and transform you and change your life. And like I think that's when people first start having their spiritual awakening, when they start realizing that they're actually more than just a human, is like, why do I keep seeing 444? And like you start to think like this can't just be a coincidence. Like what's going on? And it gets you to be a little more curious. So like that's why angel numbers and synchronicities have so many different meanings. Cause like for someone who's just awakening, it could be like, wait, is God real? Like is source energy like what angels? And then for someone who's been on their path for like 5 years, it could be like, holy freaking shit, like my life is chaotic right now and I keep seeing 27, so like there must just be a shift and I trust this and I'm protected and I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, wow. So I want to ask you though about what you just said is like so there's many different angels numbers like 222, 333, 444, and to me that's like a subset of synchronicities. Like synchronicities can be many things, but numbers are one of them. And
Mhm.
I want to ask you, so do you have your own kind of categories of angel numbers that you kind of like your own sort of like coding system, like what that means for you? Or is there sort of an established way to think about them?
Oh, there's some numbers that I resonate with, like, the general meaning, like 111 is beginnings because it's 1, it's at the beginning. 0 is the void, you're in the void, the nothingness. 9 is at the end, so you're going through, like, the end of a cycle. I know a lot of people say 5 is about change, and for some reason that's just stuck with me. 8, like, 8 is the one that I really resonate with of, like, 8 is infinity. On its side, it is the infinity sign, so it's the energy of abundance, and so I like to tap into that. But, like, generally, I don't attribute, like, "This is it, this is what it means, period," to any certain number.
I see. So you kind of take what like what resonates with you and that may come from other people, but ultimately like it comes to this like filter of like Lonnie, like of yourself and you're like, okay, maybe like this number like I associate with something meaningful in your life and it doesn't have to be the same thing as what other people think like 666 or 777 mean.
Mhm.
So it basically just comes down to you. Like that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's valuable for everyone to do. To really focus on, like, listening to themselves, listen to your own intuition and, like, what the things are trying to tell you because, like, I've done this so many times, like, I think someone else's opinion is so much better than mine or, like, they know, they've been there, like, whatever, they know, and then I like, whatever I feel is just like, "Well, like, no, that's not right," right? Because they know, but you know. If people who are listening to this, you know your intuition is right, trust yourself.
Yeah. Such an important freaking thing to emphasize. I know a lot of people, myself included, of course, like I'm not outside of this, where like I just, I was so caught up in outside of my intuition and what other people thought. And yes, it is still a work in progress, but man, I am so much more tapped into my own intuition, my own truth. And it's manifesting in things that make me so happy. And like for example, like I'm in San Diego, I'm doing naturopathic medicine, I'm like exploring psychedelic medicine, I'm studying to become a therapist and all these things. I feel way more at peace in life than I ever did in this point. And that's all because of what you're saying is like trust in your intuition. Like you have the power to find out who you are and what your gift is in this world. And the more you tap into that, trust me, like things start popping up in your life that it's almost like God or the universe or whatever being is like listening, right? And because you're tapping into yourself, which is inherently a positive process, you start to get rewarded, right? And I think it's also important to like not get caught up in the reward because like if you get caught up with this like a reward mechanism, then you're just falling back into like the ego of like, oh, like I want to manifest this, which is fine. Like yes, like manifest, but I feel like there should be a sense of like mystery in learning about yourself, and and then it just keeps on happening. But you have to keep on perpetuating the mystery, perpetuating the curiosity in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that just reminds me of, like, when we're in relationship with other people, and once we think we, like, have them figured out, we think we know someone, then we're not curious about them, and the relationship starts to die because 'cause you're, like, you're no longer interested or curious or wondering.
Yeah. And people are like infinitely deep. So like as soon as you think you
Mhm.
know someone, think again. Like, trust me. I mean, I know, like, couples who have been together for, like, a really long time, and, like, eventually, like, maybe even, like, 30, 40 years down the line, you're still learning about your partner, and it doesn't have to be an intimate partner too, it can be, like, a friend, you know? People change, and, I love this quote, like, "Change is the only constant." Right? Like if you're not changing, like what are you doing, you know? And of
Mhm.
course, you need stability too. So it's like this constant like back and forth. But like yeah, people are really really deep and really really interesting too if you give them a chance and if you invite them into your being and allow them inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just a little more on the angel numbers though. So your clothing brand and your vision, Empath Awaken. Um,
Mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of like how it started? I guess maybe that may also tie into like your spiritual journey, like how all this came about. But you have angel numbers on your sweatshirt, and this really interesting gecko lizard
The chameleon.
chameleon. That's what
It's a
it's a
chameleon.
chameleon. Yeah, can you
Yeah,
talk a bit about your brand and maybe like your spiritual awakening and how those things are connected?
for sure. Let's see, where do I start all the way back when my mom passed away and I went through high school and college and I got my accounting degree and I was super depressed. I did like the basic corporate life. Um, I was going out every weekend and getting super drunk and kind of just miserable. I remember I started seeing a lady who was like, it was like half spiritual healing, energy healing, and then it was like half therapy. And I was just crying and crying and crying. And like, I remember this one question like, is this what my life is? Like, I'm just going through this cycle Monday through Friday, and then it's the weekend, and then I go back to work. And I was so miserable. And I got to a point where I ended up quitting my job. I went to Thailand, got into yoga, started to explore myself, taking care of myself, and it led me down the spiritual journey of questioning and going to psychics and mediums and like, what's really going on here? Like, this can't be it. And eventually I moved to San Diego. That's when I got super deep into spirituality, explored everything like cacao ceremonies and full moon parties. And like me and my roommates did oracle cards like all the time. We were so connected. It was such an amazing part of my life. I got obsessed with like I had my altar and I would go to it every single night and meditate all the time. And I was so tapped in still and like also healing and transforming through like not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy and like learning this from my parents. Um, and then like just along my spiritual journey, I started a podcast. I started creating a ton of content. I was like, numbers have been such a huge part of my journey. My mom sending me 27 all the time, every day, every little single, literally every day, like 10 times a day minimum. I see 27. And
Wow.
like, it's and it doesn't phase me, and something with it's so fascinating with Uber, a couple weeks ago, I was sitting in the nail salon and the spiritual journey, at least for me, is like all the time. Like it doesn't end. Like I love it. I'm so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about shifting my energy because I believe like once we stop meditating, once we stop praying, once we stop setting intention and like clearing our energy, we start to just fall back into social norms and the environment. And if you look around, the environment is full of doubt and insecurity and worry and fear and greed. It's full of all of that. So we just naturally go back into that because we're a product of our environment.
Mm,
And so, like the other day, I was sitting in the nail salon and it's a time of you can't do anything because your hands are taken, right? So there's a lot of space to just think. And I just closed my eyes. I was like, something really amazing is happening. And I could feel it in my body. Like this, I feel so good. I'm so grateful. Like today is magical. And I went home. I was Uber driving, and my first ride, 27, was in the address. And I picked up this guy and he was really handsome and we had a good conversation. He was super drunk and he was like asking me about my journey and asking me about meditation. And it felt like he was kind of lost, but he wanted some guidance. And it felt so magical. And then that night, I had like 4 other rides, addresses, 27 in the addresses. And now, like, I am not at all surprised when I see 27 in my Uber ride addresses. Like, it happens like 4 times a day now when I ride. And I believe, like, going into law of attraction and manifesting what you want and going from the place of like, I want, like, it's so easy for me to manifest the number 27 because I don't have much attachment to wanting it and needing it. Like, I don't care about it at all. And so when you want something, you start to attract it. At first, it's like this holy shit, like 27 in the address. And then it becomes, oh, another 27. Oh, another 27. And it's no longer this big deal. And that's how we create big things in this life. We start with the small things. Like, oh, I just found a dollar. Oh, someone just gave me $5. Oh, just $6. And once it becomes your normal standard, you no longer have to put energy into like creating it. I am so digressing into from my what the question that you asked, like the spiritual journey into like law of attraction and manifestation.
Yeah.
But this is what I've been really focusing on lately is I feel like in my spiritual journey, there were like 6 years, 7 years of healing, of like curiosity, of getting to know like angels, spirit guides, going to a ton of psychics, mediums, healers, like what the fuck is going on here and healing it. And then I started to be like, I started to question, okay, I feel like I've healed everything. Like, and now I feel like I'm just kind of going in this cycle of the same shit over and over and over. And I'm not doing anything. I'm not dating anyone. I'm not creating anything because I feel like I'm not healed enough, but I'm never going to be healed enough. So I'm going to move forward and heal. Like I'm going to create, I'm going to date and heal simultaneously because I feel like there was like the point in my life is like time to move forward. And if shit comes up, if my shadow comes up, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to heal it, but I'm not going to keep on asking for it. Because I think when we get stuck, oh my God, I just looked, it was 22, 27. um, when we get stuck, we can get stuck in like, I really want to heal myself. I really want to heal this. I really want to, and you're asking for it. Therefore, you're manifesting it. Therefore, things are going to keep coming up and you're going to keep having memories and you're going to keep triggering emotions and you're going to have the experience of like, oh my God, I feel so healed. And this is like something I've questioned for so long, but now I feel so like, yeah, like this makes sense to me. Do you have any questions before I continue?
No, but thank you for all of that. I was just gonna say maybe something that like about that experience of like continually needing to heal. I feel like so many people get stuck in that process. While like you were alluding to, like it is a really important process to like recognize, like, oh, I've got this trauma, and like this is why I think this way, and this is how why whatever, and to get down that line and to follow like where did it come from, like what kind of experiences did I have that led me to have this, which usually comes from like childhood, usually a parental thing, not always, but that's most of the time. And yes, that is absolutely vital and important for you to know that. But at some point, you just have to realize that you were already healed. Like you were already a miracle. Like you were already incredibly aware and alive. And it's almost it's hard to talk about that because it's not something you do exactly. It's it's kind of like the point of meditation. Like it's like the letting go and just like, oh, like nothing is, like nothing is as important as this present moment right now. And and so realizing that has some sort of effect, like we were talking about before, about like how things are happening in your life, like the presence, like being tapped in, like we were talking about. And and so yeah, like it's really cool that you were able to kind of see that and also to like go back to those, maybe wounds that when they need a little taking care of, like you go back and then you come back to like your vision and your relationships and your brand and your personality and who you want to be, like your individuality in this world, your uniqueness as a human being. I just think it's yeah, it's really cool how you're able to bounce back and forth between those.
Yeah, for sure. And I truly believe there's an infinite version of us, and I question, like, how can I tap into, like, the healed version, like, my perception of healed me, like, this minute, and then in 2 minutes, I'm no longer healed, but, like, I can then, like, 3 minutes, I can tap right? Like, what is that? And then it's the question of how long can I just stay in the healed version of me? Like, can I just train myself to always be that confident, loving me self? Um and, like, on the topic, this kinds of like, last night, I went out so I moved to Denver 2 months ago, and I haven't really been going out. I've just been working. I'm just, like, focusing on money and, like, creating my brand and my business. And so last night, I went out, and I was with a group of like 40 people, and I kinda, like, get into this energy, I'm not clear, and, like, I'm insecure, and I'm nervous, and I'm scared, and and I'm thinking about so many different things, and I left, and I felt really sad, and I was like, "Damn," like, I thought like, I wish I was more extroverted. I wish I talked to more people. I wish this and this. And this morning I woke up just like so many thoughts and feelings of like, I just want to be confident when I go out. And so like I ended up meditating, clearing the energy, clearing my thoughts. Like I feel so much grounded right before this, thank God.
Mm.
Right. Um, so like this for me, like right now, as I'm saying, like I'm not trying to get stuck in the constantly healing, but I feel like for me, what's important and valuable in my life is like I want to go out in public spaces and feel extroverted and feel like confident and feel like I can talk to anyone. And it's so funny, like this also ties into labels, which I fucking hate labels. Like I hate the introverted, extroverted label. Like I am this thing for the rest of my life. Like I call myself like sometimes I am super introverted. Sometimes I just want to be alone. Like a lot of times, actually. Like I love being alone.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to question like, is that just because like I'm scared to be myself around other people? And when I'm alone, I can be myself completely and I love myself. But like if I'm in a group of people, like, oh, like I can only say certain things. And so I'm questioning the narrative that I tell myself. And like I really believe in like law of attraction and I believe in the narrative that we tell ourselves is so powerful. So when I go out, if I'm like, I just am in the habit of I'm introverted, I'm awkward, I don't do well in big crowds, but I'm working on like and questioning, can I change that? Can I actually be extroverted? Can I actually be like the center of attention? Not that like I'm like I need the attention, but it makes me uncomfortable to be
Yeah.
the center of attention. So I'm like, well, like what's the opposite of that? I'm feeling there's so much dogma that I fed into, which like it's fine. Like I don't regret anything like of like believing other people have the right thing, say the right thing. But like sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, this is the right answer. Oh, like it's better to be extroverted or it's better to be introvert. Like you should always push yourself outward or you should always like what's another good example that people tell you like this is the thing like you should meditate 12 hours a day or you should only eat healthy food or you should only go the well like I think that when we do something so much, maybe we should do less of it. Oh, I meditate 12 hours a day. Maybe it's actually like meditation's not the ultimate thing. Like maybe my growth is actually being out in the world and interacting with people. So like switching it. I hope that made sense because
Yeah, yeah. And if you speak to like meditation aficionados, they'll say that exact same thing. Like even Alan Watts, I think, says this where he's like, you don't even need to meditate. Like, meditation is life. Like meditate when you're speaking to a friend, meditate when you're at the grocery store. And what that means is like like just be present and connect to whatever it is you're doing. um and and yeah, as a result of that, it's like you bring that practice. Like if you do meditate, if you do have a time where like you sit down and close your eyes, you listen to like some meditation, or maybe it's like a silent meditation, um, and then you carry that with you into your life and you integrate it into your being. And I think that what that does is it allows you to do the thing that you're saying is like change. Like you ask yourself, like, can I change? Can I change the label of myself? You know?
Yeah.
And
And I wholeheartedly
yeah,
believe that I can, and that we can, that everyone can, that they're not limited to, like, "I'm introverted,
yeah,
period."
yeah,
I
absolutely.
challenge that.
And also, I also fucking hate labels too for that exact reason. It's like it's
I
a
can't
box. Like,
stand
why would you
them.
wanna put yourself into a box? And maybe today you are introverted, and maybe tomorrow you're extroverted, and then maybe on the third day you're like, I don't even want to be either one. I don't want to just fuck these labels, basically. And so yeah, and I think that like where that comes into play is like the non-identification with your ego, which is like anything. Ego is like is literally identification with whatever it is happening, right? Um, like me, Mazin, me, extrovert, naturopath, like yes, I can say these things and I do these things, but who I am is way more expansive and way more infinite. And from that place, I think that's where we create like true meaningful change that we can practice and bring into our life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing about your journey. And I also wanted to touch on something. So your brand, just moving back to your brand a little bit. Empath Awaken. Um, Interesting choice of words. I want to ask you about the choice of words, which I know before it used to be, your podcast Perspective Switch. That was your old thing, and then you change it to Empath Awaken. So,
Mhm.
like, what caused you to change it from Perspective Switch to Empath Awaken?
So, perspective switch, I still love and value that idea, and it's about it actually started it was inspired because, like, I was reading this book by Paul Selig, and one day I would be in a perspective, and then the next day I'd be in a completely different perspective, and my life would just feel so much different, and I would just feel so grateful, and I would just see things differently, and, like, that ability to switch your perspective can change your entire life. And so I love it. It's wonderful. I changed it to Empath Awaken because Empath Awaken is you get more of an idea of what you're about to get into and what you're about to listen to. Perspective Switch can kind of be mainstream. Everyone knows, like everyone resonates with Perspective Switch,
Yeah.
but like Empath Awakens like targeted to like, hey, empaths of the world, it's time to awaken to your power and
Hmm.
your knowing.
It's more of a niche.
Yeah,
Yeah. And do you consider yourself an empath? And is that why you do you consider yourself an empath that is awakening? And is that why you created it to connect to others who are
for
in
sure.
the same boat?
I've always been an empath, and, like, growing up, I just, like, soaked up all the energy in my house, and, like, last night, I think the reason that I my energy was so chaotic and I was feeling all these things and so many thoughts and, like, not myself, not tapped in, not grounded, I think it's because, like, naturally, I'm, like, really open to everyone's energies, um there's definitely times where, like, I've known, "Oh, this isn't mine." There's been times in mediumship when, like, I'm actually intentionally trying to tap into a spirit, and the first thing that comes to me is, "How do they feel?"
How does who feel?
The spirit that I'm tapping into.
Ah, I see. So you're like
Yeah.
you're wanting to understand how they feel as opposed to like
Well,
how it makes you feel?
no, 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 it's not that, like, I wanna know how they feel, it's like I'm calling on this person who passed away, and I start feeling like it's when you tap into, like, a dead person, they give you messages through your senses, your clair senses, like feeling, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and then you decipher, like, who that is, and, like, if you're giving someone a reading, that's why they're like, "Oh, like, this person died of a heart attack." And it's like, so, like, I'm feeling it's this oh, this person, like, feels heavily addicted to drugs. So it's kind of like a way of knowing who or what you're tapping into.
Okay. So you just opened a gigantic can of worms. I don't know if that was well, I mean, it's intentional because it's just you, but um I think for people listening, mediumship isn't exactly, the TV channel that they're currently watching in their life, or maybe they are, I don't know, and maybe they're curious about it. But I know for me personally, like it's not something that I've particularly practiced in my life, and I'm a
Mhm.
very open-minded person. Like I'm very curious about it, and you've been telling me about this, and and about table tipping too, and like all these practices of connecting to this other realm where dead people, dead spirits, I don't know, maybe even other beings, I guess, like animals
Mhm.
and things, and
Mhm.
so I'm very curious. I really don't know how to start this question, but can you just tell me about maybe that realm and mediumship, and how is it that people can connect to that realm, and like can everyone connect to that realm?
Yes, everyone can definitely connect to that realm. I think everyone does connect to that realm to a certain extent. They may just not realize it, or they may just not talk about it because they're scared that it's the devil or something,
Mm.
um, based off of like religious fear based dogma stuff. Um, Mediumship, I don't get it. I mean, everything is within us, right? Like we close our eyes and everything is here and now. And our whole world is based off of how we feel. How you feel, how you perceive the world is how the world is. Um I don't know, like God is with us all the time everywhere. God is everything. So it's like these things that like when we die, we physically die, right? We're not physically here, but our soul lives forever. And so like our soul can be anywhere at any time. It's like these energies that are not in this dimension. Um, we can call on, like I can call on my mom. I can say, hey, like, and something that is really easy for me to tap in to is to connect with my mom and say, "Hey mom, like come to my dream tonight. Come like show me what I need to see or whatever my intention is." I had a really profound experience recently with an angel in my dream showing me what I needed to see. And so we may not be able to use our clair senses because like sometimes it takes a lot of developing and going to class and sitting in silence and connecting to these spirits. And then some people are just born really fucking open, like they just see shit and they hear shit. um but that if you're not born with it, it doesn't mean you can't do it. You can absolutely do it. We can all train ourselves to be mediums. I think a lot of people are psychic. People who think they have a high degree of emotional intelligence, definitely psychic. Like people who are really charming, psychic. Like you're feeling and you're seeing and you're sensing other people.
So yeah, like can you go into like the process? Like what's your process like of mediumship? Like how do you connect to the realm of the dead?
I went to kind of like segment into this. I went to the Arthur Findlay College in England, and they teach it's a college that teaches psychic development and mediumship. And so in the class I joined was trance mediumship, where you invite a spirit to actually speak through you. And so our whole week of training was literally you sit in a chair. Okay, so we had like 8 people and there was like 4 and 4. So 4 people would sit in like 4 chairs and we would sit, close our eyes. We just have the intention. Um, we can have the intention to receive the spirit that wants to speak for someone else. And the other 4 people would just watch us and we would sit there for 40 minutes. And our group was, like, in the beginning, but it's setting the intention and allowing whatever to come through. It's literally the biggest thing you need surrender for, like anything else in life, you just have to surrender to what comes through you, and also have that intention that this energy is pure and it's of love, and it's not something demonic or evil. So it's all about intention, surrendering, letting it go, and letting it come through you. I also really want to add, like with mediumship, there's always someone, something on the other side that has a message for you. Always, every time.
And that message could be a plethora of things, right? Like if and like back to the intention aspect, like if the intention is good, like something that will lead to your growth, like your spiritual evolution, then
Mhm.
I think that's a good sort of like measuring stick as to like how much should I read into this and how much should I believe this thought about me. I find it so mind bending and like very mysterious how there's this realm of beings that can communicate to us through that. But if we can communicate in the way you're saying, it sounds like it kind of has to be the way that you're saying it, which is like allowing it to come to you and receive it. Um,
Mhm.
like So my grandpa passed away um like 2 nights ago. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and he was the first person in my family, like um like a close member who ever died. And he literally was one of the biggest inspirations for who I am today. I think you would have loved him, by the way. He Like, when everyone was doing one thing, he had his own way, right? Like, he trusted his intuition, and he was always dropping, like, these philosophical, wisdom-bearing, like, truth-seeking knowledge bombs on us all the time, and he was such a deep guy. Like, you would just sit there and listen to him for hours, and he's just like I mean, he did so much in his life, and he actually also contributed to like who I am today. Like I'm in naturopathic medicine a lot because of him, because he used to take me to the forest and we used to climb trees together, and he would teach me how to climb trees and climb these like rock walls that clearly have no right in being climbed, right, without any like attachments or anything, just like straight up climbing this thing. And he was like 60 or something at the time too, which is like crazy to me. And and I lived in the city, I lived in Beirut, so there wasn't, like, many trees around me, and there wasn't, like, but he made it a point to pick me up, like, once a week, if not more, or, like, more than that, and he would take me to, like, the forest, and we'd walk, and he'd teach me about all these plants, and so I have so much gratitude for having met this guy, and and I'm also really grateful to have gone through that like grieving process of like, shedding tears and feeling the pain. And it's something that me or my family haven't really gone through, like I said before. And and then and there's also a lot of joy. Like like he was such a joyous person. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because, like, I go to the park, every day I try to, and I meditate under this tree if I have time, and, I remember it was just yesterday, I was walking, and I could feel his presence with me, and it's almost like we became so close after he died. Like, we weren't talking that much for, like, the past like 10 years. Like he was kind of at his home, or like maybe like 5 years, but we weren't like close like that. But like now I like, I love him so much and I feel his presence so strongly. And I wonder, like, is that him? Is that me? Um, and I honestly, I don't think that that matters, right? Because like I also had another experience where I was at the gym. It's like also after he died, like, 2 it was, like, 2 days ago, and I was, like, crying, and I was in tears at the gym. I've never cried at the gym before, so this is, like, the first time it's ever happened. As I'm doing, like, workouts, and I could feel his voice, his energy, and he was a big athlete, like, and he was, like, pushing me on, and, he was the most resilient guy. I told my brother this yesterday, I was like, "He's like our version of David Goggins." Like, he was like my family's David Goggins. Like, if you know David
Nice.
Goggins, if you guys listening to this, he's like this intense, like, um, he runs like 100-mile marathons, like super, super intense guy, but like insane athlete, insane resiliency, insane ability to keep pushing forward. Uh, like he one my grandpa one time he fell off a mountain. We were hiking and he fell off the freaking mountain. And we're like,
Yeah.
holy shit. Me and my brother looked down and he's like, "Oh, I'm good." He's like, "Your turn. Come on." Like,
Oh
we were
my
like, "What?"
god.
Anyway, but so just relating to this, what you're talking about is like, I think that life is way more mysterious than we give it credit for. And I think that's an understatement too. Like, it's really hard to put into words how strange it is and how
Mhm.
strangely beautiful it is that we're here. And so I think these things of like tapping into dead people and their spirits, and I think, it just might damn well be possible.
Yeah, it sounds like you already do it.
Maybe I do. I do have some of the characteristics you were sharing about like psychics and stuff, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's not something that's been on the menu for me as much as it has been maybe in the past week or so. But of course, we
Mhm.
learn from other people, and so I'm like, Lonnie, like, tell me about this, and I'm like, and I just go home and I'm like, holy shit, like she's tapping into spirit guides, like what's going on? So, and something I really want to talk about, and I want to get your take on this, is like how this relates to health. Like, because this is like a wellness podcast, and I bet you maybe some people, if they watch this far, are like, how does this relate to like health and wellness and stuff? And what I would kind of ask them to wonder is like, how do you think that spirit has an effect on our health? Like, in the current westernized model of health, like we don't really have a place like you go to the doctor and he's like, "Yeah, I think you just need to connect to your spirit guide some more, maybe some meditation." And he just gives you a pill and he's like, "Get the fuck out! Like, give me your money and leave," basically, and all this medication. And I think that that is what health and wellness is missing, is this connection to spirit. And it's funny because, and I wonder if this is happening with you, but like the more you tap into spirit, the more, if you will, have free will in your life to make conscious decisions, even like simple ones like eating the right food or taking care of yourself or working out or meditating or even connecting to spirit guides. And I wonder if that's been your experience too, of like the closer you are to this realm, which is also simultaneously that realm because it's all one. Um, and if that's had like implications on your health.
Absolutely. I think the thing we miss often in our world is the energy body, like the energetic body, that causes the illness within our physical body, and keeping that clean and healed. I 100% believe that stress kills us and it deteriorates us much quicker than a like joyful, happy, free life. Another thing is tying into the narratives that we tell ourselves and our thoughts. So, like, stress is stressful thoughts, right? But if you have like happy, free thoughts, you're going to be a little more easy. You're not going to be tensing in the physical body. And I do absolutely eat really healthy. I drink a ton of water with my gallon water. I drink a ton of water. I eat healthy.
I got
I
you.
freaking nice. I love to exercise. So I do all the physical 3D things, but there's also like when it comes to being overweight, like I used to be overweight in college. Like I peaked because I was like drinking all the time and I was eating really unhealthy food. Actually, like for a really long time, like so much processed food, so much fast food. And there's a narrative that we tell ourselves, which like this doesn't have to necessarily be spiritual, but knowing that you're powerful enough to change the narrative, like you're not going to feel the impulse to go to McDonald's. You're not going to be like, but like I need it, right? Because you're starting to change the narrative in your head. You're starting to be like, you know what? I'm a person who does like to work out. I'm a person who does like to eat healthy. I just love eating healthy. Like it's just natural. And so like when you can start to shift that, you can start to naturally do things that are actually more healthy and cause wellness in your life.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you may still get the impulse to go to McDonald's. It's just that with that power, you have the ability to choose otherwise. Like, you have the ability
Yeah,
to make another choice in that moment because you're not, like, limited, you're not constricted to your thoughts and feelings and emotions, which are always, always, always valid, but not always the right thing or the true thing in that situation.
for sure. Yeah. And another thing about like wellness is when you're a really sensitive person and you feel a lot of other people, um, something to like do to, like, help yourself is to start cutting out relationships that are toxic, people who are just chaotic, people who are just angry, like, you're picking up on that stuff and it's affecting your life, and it like, if you really wanna be healthy and well and live, like, your fullest potential and joy and happiness, it's like, limit that time you spend with those people.
Such an underrated aspect of health.
Yeah.
not to shit on my school or anything like that. It's way better than most medical schools out there, I think. But like when we're in the clinic and we have like a patient that we're helping, like I've never heard anyone, well, I guess they do bring up like relationships and like a social, like a support system. Like that's how they frame it. Like, how's your support system? And like, I wonder if they can go a little deeper and ask the question like, "Do you have any toxic relationships in your life? Are there
Mhm.
people who aren't serving you?" Because it's like eating bad food. It's like eating rotten food. Like, why would you wanna eat that? Like, it's gonna make you sick. It's gonna
Yeah.
make you feel bad. It's gonna make you not sleep well, etcetera, etcetera.
Mhm.
And and yeah, like I've definitely had the experience of like, you know, letting people go, and it's not a matter of like I hate them, like, and if I do hate them, then I would maybe explore that feeling of like, oh, there's some like distaste, or is this about me or about them or whatever. But like you
Mhm.
have a sense of intuition at the end of the day that tells you like maybe I'm better off without this person in my life.
Mhm.
And it's just like releasing a toxic a chemical in your body. It's like the same exact thing. And then on the other hand, like people that you love, people that inspire you, people that are your role models, and if you hang out with them more, man, like your life is gonna freaking change, like change for the better, and it's gonna inspire you. And like, what's that quote? Like you are the sum of the two people you hang out with the most or something like that. And it's
Mhm.
really true. And obviously to a degree, like you have your own being and whatever, but you're influenced by these forces, and like you have the choice to connect with these people. Like go connect with them. And if it makes you afraid, maybe like I know a lot of people suffer from like imposter syndrome. Um I know I did in like the spirituality realm where everyone was like doing tarot readings and like akashic records and like astrology, and I'm like, dude, I just want to be present. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is too much. But like if there's something that is like you're afraid to do, like go do it. Like see what that fear is about and do it anyway. Like it's okay to be afraid, it's okay. Like we all feel afraid every now and then, but do the thing anyway. And you might find out that that fear is not there anymore. Maybe your dreams will come true. And so, absolutely, what you're talking about is like, the people we hang out with really do have an impact on us.
Mhm. For sure. They show us what's possible. So, like, when you're hanging out with inspiring people who are, like, hitting levels that you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was possible," and you're with them and you're like, "Wait, like, you're doing that? Like, I'm not you're not, like, better than me, like, I could do that too." So they show you what's possible, and then when you're hanging out with, like, people who are really limited, they're showing you what's possible too, like, they're
Mm,
not really expanding, and you start to be like,
mm.
"Well, like, if they can't do it, I can't do it."
Yeah. Yeah, we really take on that stuff. Even the people who, like, don't consider themselves empaths, I think, like, we're at the end of the day, we're social beings, so, like, we want to connect to each other, whether you're
Mhm.
Jim, Joe, Jill, or Jack, and then, whoever you are, like, you see someone, you have a conversation, like, you're connecting to them. Um, but yeah, and I wanna kind of pivot a little bit. We, kind of touched on spirit guides and mediumship. And you spoke about your mom as being a spirit guide. And I want to invite you or ask you to talk about Paul Selig. I know that you went to his retreat, and if anyone wants to, um, like, it doesn't know who this is, like, check him out on YouTube. He has a really interesting way of connecting to like spirits, and like he has this like almost like he's speaking. It sounds like gibberish, but it's not gibberish because it's like he's getting downloads from like this portal. Um, so can you speak about that retreat that you went to? I'm just really curious about that, and also like spirit guides, like like your mom. What other spirit guides do you have access to?
So, speaking on Paul Selig first, I remember this I was at a concert and I was dancing, and I think I was alone, and I just felt such low self-esteem, and I felt so ugly, and I remember closing my eyes, and I was just like, "What the f like, what? Like, how have I been on my spiritual journey this long, and this is where I am, and this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I'm thinking?" Like, I want the truth. Like, I want the ultimate truth. Like, what is the truth of the truth of the truth? Because within the spiritual community, there's, like, so many paradigms, there's so many stories, there's so many narratives that aren't like, they're true for people, and when something's true for you, you create that in your reality, but it's not actually the ultimate truth. Like, there's so many different truths, and that's how we can transform our lives is by believing in something different, and so I was standing at this concert, like, "Give me the truth," talking to my spirit team, right? Because I believe when I set the intention, I ask for the thing, it always shows up. And so it was maybe like a week or 2 weeks later, I was watching Aubrey Marcus, and then I think he's interviewing Paul Selig, and he's like, "Here's this book, it's called The Book of Truth." And I was like, "Wait, I need this book." So I ordered it on Amazon, I read it immediately, and the types of experiences I had while reading this book was like literally the most profound spiritual experiences I've ever had. And like the realizations were just coming in and coming in and coming in. And that's, like, what his work that's how his work affected me. It, like when I read the book, I was like, "Oh my god, every single word feels like truth." Like,
Mm,
there is no bullshit in here. There's no human narrative in here. This is, like, the truth of how the world exists and how we're, like, born into these families, and then when we're raised, we, like, believe things are the way they are based on how our parents taught us, and then we're, like, creating the narrative, and we're creating it, and just it's just wild, and it talks about being psychic, and it talks about feeling things, like feeling other people, and, like, it felt I'm not gonna call it the Bible. It felt like a manuscript.
yeah,
It literally felt like a manuscript of how this world works,
yeah.
and I got so into it. He had a retreat in Costa Rica for a week, and I went to that retreat. I love going physically to places, mainly to meet people in real life and to meet the other people who are into the things that I'm into because like we were just talking about, when you hang out with people who inspire you, like you start to level up because you're like, "Wait a second, that's possible for you." It then becomes possible for yourself.
Yeah.
Um and his retreat was absolutely gorgeous. We sat in this room and he channels, they call themselves Melchizedek. I think Melchizedek was actually in the Bible. I'm not really sure, but it's this he channels this energy, and how it comes through for him is clairaudient, is which he hears it. So he's literally hearing what is coming through, and then he mumbles it, and then he repeats it clearly. And that's just how it comes through for him.
Yeah.
Um
Can I give like a impression of
yeah,
just the
yeah.
way he does it? I mean, you guys can search it, but it's kind of like he'll like sit back and he'll like tap in and he'll be like, and they want you to do this, and they say that truth is the only answer, and love is the answer,
Yeah.
and and I know that seemed weird maybe for some people, but what he says, the content of what he says, and again, that's that same measuring stick that we're using to assess like, is this good for me? It
Yeah.
feels good. It feels
Yeah.
real. It feels like growth, and it feels like spiritual maturity, if you will.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's I just wanted to give like a kind of a example, but people can search it to like see what he actually does.
Yes, and how you feel about information is all that fucking matters, because Paul Selig worked for me, but, like, it might not work for someone else
Yeah.
because our paths are different, and in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I would get so fucking excited about my realizations. I would share it with my friends. I'd be like, "Oh my god, I just did this thing and I had this experience," and I would want them to do it too. But what I realized is that what works for me doesn't work for everyone. So I actually don't like, I'm never gonna be like, "Hey, Mazen, read this book. Hey, Mazen, listen to this. Hey, Mazen, do this," because I know that, like, it might not resonate with you. And I also realized when I was doing that and people weren't enjoying it the way I did, it, like, took away from my experience. I felt a little bit less about, like, the
Mm.
profound experience I had because this other person wasn't having it.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's almost like let people be on their journeys.
yeah,
This book could change your fucking life. It could. Like, I believe in trying things for yourself, try everything.
yeah, yeah. About that, like I had a similar experience where I bought this like essential oil that was like ylang ylang. Have you heard of that one before?
No, I
And
haven't.
I bought it and I was in class and I put it on my hand, and then like for some reason it caught like attention from like the people around me, and then they were like smelling it and they were like, "Dude, this smells like ass." And I was like, "Fuck." So
What?
one guy was like, "It smells like a hospital." I was like, "Oh god."
Oh, wow.
It's like,
But
but
you liked
but
it?
I love it. Yeah, exactly. And it's like
Oh.
exactly that thing that you're talking about. Like, it doesn't matter how other people feel about a certain
Yeah,
thing. Like, if you resonate with that, if that's what you want, if that's what makes you happy, which it does make me happy, I'm gonna keep using it. So
for sure.
yeah. So back to the spirit guides though, for a second. So who are these spirit guides? Are they people?
So
Are they beings? Are they
you can have
spirits? Are they beings
so
that
many
are
different
they
spirit
beings
guides.
in another dimension?
Well, yeah, I think they're definitely in another dimension because we can't physically see them, therefore they're not in this dimension. We could have my mom is definitely a spirit guide. So like passed away loved ones are spirit guides. We can have
Mm,
animals as spirit guides. We can have
mm,
like I've heard people be like, you have a tree with you. I've heard people be like you have a dragon with you. I've heard people be like you have an ET with you.
mm,
So and angels. Like
mm,
there are so many different spirit guides. And what I feel to be true is they might like this one person said she saw a dragon, this one person said she saw a tree. It could be the same spirit guide. The way
interesting.
spirit guides come to us is but what we feel comfortable with. So the other night I mentioned earlier that I had this really profound dream with an angel. I was calling on Archangel Shubael, and I was asking him for help to propel me forward on my journey. And so that night, I had this crazy dream. I was like in a recovery house. I was addicted to drugs, but like I felt so out of place and it just didn't feel right. And then, like, all of a sudden, I'm in this room and I'm with this man who's like light brown skin and he has dreadlocks and he's like beautiful blue eyes. And I feel really comfortable with him. And I'm like telling him about my dream. And there's like this TV and it's static. And I'm looking at the TV and he's like, you have to change yourself to change the TV. And I'm like, what? And so like I do my thing, I change myself. And then
That's so cool.
and the TV changes and he sits on my lap and I'm getting
Oh,
chills right now. And he sits on my lap and he's like looking at me. He's like, aren't you going to look at the TV? And I was scared. I was like, no. And he laughed at me and he smiled. Um, I think that was the end of the dream. Oh, no, no, no. I was like, I love you. Like, I just felt this love for him. He's like, I love you too. And then I woke up and like, that is how my angel came to me. He was this light-skinned brown man with dreadlocks. For some reason, I felt really comfortable and safe with him, and I felt this love for him. So I really believe, like, our spirit guides will come how the person, the medium feels comfortable. So, like, the medium feels comfortable with dragons, it's gonna appear as a dragon. I do believe that we do have different spirit guides, and there's different angels and they're at different densities and frequencies.
mm,
So like my mom, she still has her personality that she had here. She still has her emotions. Like when mediums give readings, oftentimes the dead people like they're like, I'm so sorry. But like an angel, I don't know that an angel has those types of emotions. I don't think angels feel sorrow. I don't think they feel the denser emotions. So part of the journey can be like my mom just passed away and I don't believe in God, and so now I'm going to this medium and she's like opening up my eyes to like, and I'm like, wait, like everything she's saying is really accurate, what's really going on here? So that's why it could be meaningful to tap into like a lower dimensity dimensional being. But then like on your spiritual journey, you could be like, you know what? Like I want to feel like bliss, joy, love. Like, and you can like start to go up. Not saying that they can't help you, like the lower density
yeah, yeah, yeah,
can't help you, but like there's so many different levels to this
yeah, yeah.
and to energy.
Oh my god, I have so much to say about what you just said.
I know
But
that was a
it
lot.
was amazing. So okay, so I'll start with the dream, like the dream aspect of things, and what you were saying about the frequencies, and then I want to talk about like dark energy. But I'll start with the dream aspect because this actually I've been semi obsessed with dreams and the unconscious for the past like 2 months.
Mhm.
And I've been doing some so dreams, we all dream every single night. It's a fact that we have at least it's like 5 to 10 dreams every single night. Like they've shown that um, through science. And
Mhm.
but not everyone remembers their dreams, right? Like some people wake up
Mhm.
and they're like, I don't know, I don't really know. But what I've been starting to realize is that it's not about not remembering it, it's about not wanting to remember it, right?
Interesting.
To me, like dreams is like it's the unconscious speaking to us and letting us
Mhm.
know something, right? And it feels like to me like the unconscious is very parallel to what you're talking about in terms of like the realm of like spirit guides and this kind of realm. And and what it's doing in dreams, it's like it's sending you messages like through metaphors and pictures and signs and symbols, and sometimes they're like obvious and sometimes it's more like symbolic, right? um and so basically what I've been doing is like I wake up, and I haven't done this in like maybe like a week or something, but like pretty much every day I would like wake up and I'd be, oh my god, there's a dream, and you instantly have to like find a way to put it down because in 1 minute it's gone, right? And so I have my phone, and I don't like to write things, especially when I first wake up. So I would just like record the dream, and so I've been taking these like journal entries of my dreams, and I've been listening to them over again, and you start to notice patterns in your dreams of like the unconscious is like trying to like shake you like, listen to me, I'm trying to show you something, listen, right? And for me it's like I dream a lot about people. I guess the more shadowy part of it is like people chasing me, hunting me down, trying to catch me, stab me, rape me, whatever. Like just the the darkest shit. But like I'm being chased by something, um, and I really I've been trying to this technique of like not trying to assume what the dream means, but taking it exactly for what it is, right? Because if we start
Mhm,
playing this guessing game, like, oh, maybe, like, there's all these dream books out there, and like, I don't really, I'm not a huge fan of dream books because it's like you define what it means for you. Like, what does this mean for you, right? If they say a bird means flight or happiness, like maybe to me it means freedom or something like that. And so,
mhm.
but yeah, so what does it mean for you? And so I've just been sitting there and trying to decode these dreams. And as a kind of in conjunction with that, I've, are you familiar with like archetypes, like the concept of archetypes?
Yes.
It sounds so similar to like what you speak about, like spirit guides in a sense from, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. But to me, like archetypes are like gods, right? Like they're like the gods that the Greeks talked about, like the many gods, or like the Hindu gods, and like these different gods are like they're different frequencies, right? Like every god has their own frequency that they code for. And just like you said, it may not appear the same for me as it does for you. Like you might get a different image as my image, but what's fundamental about these archetypes that seem to reside in this unconscious space, you know, is that they are real first and foremost, and they're not just real, they're like really, really real to the extent of like, when you read like a poem or you read like a scripture or like something really deep and spiritual, or like a piece of art, like a really fascinating piece of art, that to me is realer than any like nonfiction literary piece that you can ever read about something. Like there's a sense of like creativity, and
Mhm,
there's a sense of like wonder, and there's a sense of like not knowing what that is, yet it's so deeply entrenched into our lives. Like
mhm,
for example, I'll give an example just to clarify, like the hero's journey, like that's a common like archetype. Like the hero goes out into the woods, slays the dragon or whatever, and then collects the gold, brings it back, shares it with the people. Like that's like an archetypal story. You'll find it in so many different movies and books and these fiction novels, like all these things. And other archetypes, maybe something like masculine, and the divine feminine, and the divine masculine, and like the wise old man, like the wise sage, and there's something about these that exists, but we can't really feel, yet they have so much control over who we are. And in a sense, they are us. Like this is us, it's all us, right? It's all one. But these things pop up in dreams, and it's, I guess maybe that's just like my interpretation of dreams. But it sounds very similar. And it's also really fascinating to hear like your dream and how it appears for you with like, the TV and that whole um situation. Like it seems like there's a lot of symbolism there of like something. Um
mhm.
is that how kind of you perceive dreams, and is what I'm saying like aligning and resonating with you in any way?
Yeah, I think there's so much symbolism in dreams. I've dreamed so much my entire life. I used to have nightmares when I was a child, like, every single night,
Can I ask
and,
about what?
yeah, um, it was a reoccurring dream that my mom was sitting at a table, a poker table with vampires, and I would always be, like, under the table, like, grasping her leg and just being like, "What the fuck are we doing here? Why are you doing
Holy
this?"
shit.
Um, and so it was like
Was this
it
before
was
she
just this.
passed?
Yeah, this was before she passed away. Um, and I used to watch a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so, like, I was
Yeah.
terrified of vampires, and which, like, for sure had a part to do with it. And, actually a couple nights ago, I had a dream that I think someone kidnapped me, and then I escaped, but they were in my neighborhood, and I was like, I don't remember exactly because I didn't write it down, but it was something along the lines, and, like, I have so many dreams where I'm, like, running away from someone or trying to get away from someone. It's usually running away, like, I'm, like,
Yeah.
in the midst of
Yeah,
running,
yeah,
even,
me
like,
too.
when I wake up, I'm still running. Yeah. What do
Even
you
oh, wait,
interpret
what?
that meaning? No, no, no. No, I
What do you
didn't
mean?
mean, like, when I wake up, I'm so no, I mean, like, just, like, the entire dream, I'm just trying to get away from this person.
Mhm. Yeah. To me, you know what that means to me? Uh, and again, it's just my perception, but society. Like, I feel like I'm constantly like society is like chasing me down with a pitchfork. And I'm like, dude, like I just want to be in a jungle doing plant medicine, healing myself and healing other people and living like a wild, free motherfucker that I am. so so I don't know if that's what it is for you, but that's how it appears to me. And again, that may be updated like in an hour tomorrow, but currently that's my current understanding. Which again, it's not easy to understand, but it is as soon as you just give it credit for what it is.
Mhm.
So yeah, what's your
Yeah.
what's your interpretation of being chased?
I don't really know. Like, obviously, I'm running from something,
Yeah.
but, like, in a, like, justified way. Like, I don't want that thing. Like, I need to run,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't like the energy of being in, like, "This thing is scaring me, and I
Fear
need to get
mode.
away from it."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said about courage. I think like maybe it's like the courage to like face it, you know? Um I feel like, Terrence McKenna has this quote I love, nature loves courage. It's simple. Be fucking courageous, man. Just like go into whatever thing you think is gonna kill you or scare you and like face it head on, you know? Um, but yeah. Yeah, dreams are really fascinating and spirit guides and, just like synchronicities and like how they appear in these weird ways. Like and another way to know that its dreams are actually valid is like it's literally happening when you're asleep, right? It's like it's trying to like bubble up something that it can because it knows it can't reach you because like dreams won't be like you need to become more courageous like that. You don't feel that in a dream. Like a dream is no, like there's a lion and you're facing a lion and then like you like shy away like like it's more symbolic because the language of the unconscious is very primal. It's the language of emotion, of feeling, of just raw life, of raw pure life that we evolutionarily have been built to be that, right? And to feel that. And so how else would the dream communicate with you other than those kinds of things and the emotions and there can be a wide range of emotions like um yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've had like a really happy dream. I've had like sexual sexual dreams and nightmares and every like somewhere in between, but like yeah, you can experience like a wide range of emotions from them.
For sure. I've actually was thinking about this earlier today. Why don't I have more happy dreams? Like, why are
Yeah.
they always some, like, deep emotional thing? Like, last
Yeah.
night I dreamed that, one of my family friends was, what was she like, she's, like, criticizing me or just, like, being like, "You shouldn't be doing this, like, you should be doing something else," and it's like, why like, where are the where are the, like, magical, mystical
Yeah. Maybe there's a wound that needs like catering to.
but forever, for always, every single
Sometimes. I've noticed like when I recently did a heroic dose of mushrooms in Lebanon. Um and I like, um there on the chocolates that I had it said like it was a Rumi quote like pain the wound is where the light enters you. And I've been told before in like plant medicine experiences, like when you're on that, is like if there's a door that's like roses and unicorns and fairies and ponies, and then there's a door of like some dark ass shit, like door number 2, like that's where the growth is gonna happen. And I don't know if that's always the case, like to what you're asking, like, is that forever? Like, do we just constantly have to heal? Um, no, I don't think so. Like, we're like, if a good friend of mine, she always like she does this, and it's like the wave. Like, if you're constantly in this state, like clearly you're overly attached, you're overly identified to like the shadow. But if you find yourself like sometimes healing, sometimes incredibly blissful, sometimes grateful, sometimes confused, like if you're experiencing the wave of spectrum of emotions and you feel like life is meaningful, then you're on the right track. But if you're like overly identified with like the shadow, like I know personal friends who were like went through shadow work and they were like, this is bullshit. Shadow work doesn't even work. And to me is like they either overly identified with it or they didn't take it seriously enough, or like somewhere in between where it's like, do it, but then don't identify with it because guess what? You're nothing. Like you are like you're not a like everything that you experience is manifestation, but like who you are is that can bear witness to everything. And so yeah, that's such a grounding practice, but I don't think it's forever. Like nothing's forever in that sense.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. I feel like this may be a good time to put things to a close.
Awesome.
Yeah. Um is and again, thank you so much for doing this. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and I just kind of want to like say a couple things, like honestly, like thank you so much for inspiring me to start this podcast and recording it on that. You can't see it, but there's a beanbag right there that I'm sitting on for this. um yeah, thank you so much for like inspiring me to start this podcast. And it kind of gave me that push that was like, look, like you can stumble while doing this, and that's how you're supposed to do this.
Yep.
And also, thank you for being such a deep, thought-provoking friend that I can just listen to for hours and hours and just give me things to think about and talk about. And yeah, I really appreciate you so much. So thanks
Of
so much for
course.
doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Yay!
It's
Well,
been such a pleasure.
oh, it's my pleasure, and we'll have you again for shizzle, like for sure. I don't know when, but yeah, I hope this becomes like a patterned occurrence that we can do this.
Yeah, it was great talking with you.
Totally. Before we go though, I want to link up your stuff. So where can people find you? Empath Awaken, your clothing brand. Can you just give them the sauce?
Yep, Instagram is empath, EMPATH, Awaken, AWAKEN, and you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. My website, empathawaken.com.
Awesome. They could also connect to your spirit if they really want to as well.
For sure.
All right. All right. Thanks so much for coming on.
Of course. Bye-bye.